Week 13, a special time of the year, bringing joy to our hearts and racing to our minds on a quarterly basis with new content, big updates, and fun races to forget about the misfortune we might have had over the past 12 weeks. For the Weekend Warriors, Week 13 means one thing: the Weekend Warriors vRunoffs Big Grid race is upon us. And you're going to see it all live here on the Global Sim Racing channel via the iRacing esports network. The crew to give you all these stats and storylines for this very special event today will be Bill Soupsan, joining myself, Stefan Schlacher. Turning the knobs and pushing the buttons behind the scenes is our director Joe Peak, and he's using cameras provided by the great Dougie Beard. Since Bill is currently experiencing technical difficulties, Sean Ambrose is jumping in for him. And Sean, what can you tell us about today's venue?
Beautiful venue it is. Welcome to Bowmanville, Ontario. Canadian Tire Motorsports Partners, a renowned 3.957 kilometer circuit. That's about 2.5 miles. Grand Prix track opened in 1961. Today it's the centerpiece and primary spectator facility here in Canada. This high-speed circuit comprises 10 turns and several dramatic elevation changes that confront drivers with an exciting variety of challenges on every lap. Stefan, the best way to look at this track is from on board our GSRC Spec Racer Ford today here at Motorsports.
All right, we've got Stefan Schlacher in the GSRC SRF, so let's do a lap around Motorsports. Down into turn 1, this is a very fast corner, so you don't see passes into here quite as often as most first turns. It's easy to run wide off of it, but quickly you want to switch over to the right to set up for Clayton. This is a scary corner in a regular car, but the lift throttle oversteer of the SRF makes it a frightening dance to keep your balance. Drivers will be trying to get fully back on the power as soon as they can without understeering off the exit as well. Quebec is the first place where you really have any significant braking, and yet it'll still be very tough to make passes into here. Despite it having a bit of a late apex, it also opens up a lot coming off the corner. Finally, the car gets to unwind for a bit as we head towards the blind crest of 4. You'll hug the inside all the way down the hill, and then comes the braking from Moss Corner. The compression at the bottom of the hill shortens the braking zone by a huge chunk, making it hard to pass. Also, it's probably wiser to wait to overtake because this double apex bend actually leads onto the Andretti straight. This is the longest flat-out section of the track, which means in the SRF, you'll see drivers try to draft off of one another. It's so much easier to try to pass here than anywhere else on the track since it's simply a matter of slingshotting by. It'll probably be more of a game of tactics as long as you can hang on to the car ahead. It's a long climb as we try to straighten out the kinks in this run, but interestingly, there isn't that much braking at the end of it all. The S's kick off with this long, sweeping right-hander that has 2 apexes. What can sometimes happen is drivers will launch a surprise attack under braking for turn 9 by taking away the inside line. But before you know it, the track switches back into whites. This is another one where it's best to keep away from the inside curve. But hopefully, if you've kept it all together, you've now finished a lap around Motorsports.
Joe Peak doing what nobody can do better, talking you a lap around the Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. Now, since this is a Week 13 special event for the Weekend Warriors, we have no point standing to show you guys. However, Sean, one thing that we can explain to our viewers are the race details.
We certainly can, Stefan. Now, of course, here in the vRunoffs and the Weekend Warriors, we run the Spec Racer Ford. Great little car here on iRacing. A bit underpowered, but trust me, just a bear to handle. Now, the setups are open. Well, what does that mean? Well, just like in the real world, drivers and their teams can adjust these cars. Now, there aren't a lot of adjustments on the Spec Racer 4, but just enough to where they can balance it out, and you're going to need that today here at Motorsport. They've restricted the fuel on the car. You have an open setup. You have a limited tank, which is going to require one stop over this 40-minute race today. Now, we have 2 classes involved, the Spec 1 and the Spec 2 classes. So we'll follow that for you here today during the race. There is no incident cap. In other words, you won't disappear into the ether during this broadcast because, well, you made too many mistakes. You will get a fast repair. Well, what does that mean? Well, that means you get a spare car, basically. You have a little bit of trouble here down in Moss, and, well, let's just say if you mess it up, you're going to get a chance to bounce back and come back into the race, but you'll do it probably a lap down here, at least in the Spec Racer, or maybe a half a lap down, depending on whether or not you tow back in. But Stefan, I think that about covers it. Again, vRunoffs and the Big Grid have become a classic here on the Global Sim Racing channel, and well, just like all the ones before them, we just can't wait to get going today.
Oh yeah, most definitely, Sean, and I don't know if one can explain that any better than you just did. However, as always, the Weekend Warriors are being streamed into your home on the iRacing Esports Network. Make sure to like and subscribe. All you got to do is head over to the YouTube page and hit that big red subscribe button to no longer miss another second of exciting racing action. And as you can see in the background, the beautiful qualifying already going on. Beautiful saying that because the first 11 drivers are right now covered by seconds. So as always, the SRF, very exciting on the qualifying. And while I'm speaking, Sean and Bill are swapping seats, swapping headsets, as Bill has once again cleared up his technical difficulties, and he's here with us.
Had trouble at the border. The Mounties wouldn't let me in. I gave them some Vermont maple syrup, and they let me in, so I'm here now ready to call this thing.
It's always a pleasure having you alongside myself, and one thing we have to mention is our two title rivals throughout last season, Daniel Sadler and David Gaspers, once again 1-2. This time though, Daniel Sadler so far ahead of David Gaspers.
Gaspers the Ghost is his nickname. He is really fast. Sadler, the guys know each other from the Weekend Wars. They race every Sunday. They're here. These guys are 1-2 in the official series. Watch out for Chris Murakami. He's also fast, third fastest in qualifying. You know, this is going to be interesting. They have the one pit stop that's required, and there is a one fast repair. Now, usually a fast repair in these races takes you out of it if you damage your car. But if you time your damage right, if you can injure your car before you make your pit stop, you can come on and get that fuel and a new car at the same time, and it'll work out for you. If you damage your car after your pit stop, you're out of luck.
Yeah, timing your damage will be key here if you damage your car, but I think that might be a little bit out of the control of the driver. Looking right now, we're at Antonio Rees right now, 5th place, a very good qualifying for him for the 007, and yeah, one thing we have to mention, if you haven't watched in a long time, as David Gaspers takes ball back by about 4/10 over Daniel Sadler, improving his own time by 5/10, is that Antonio Rees, he didn't race, I think, a single race last season.
Yeah, but he's a name that we know. And excuse me if I don't get too excited about who sits on pole and who's... If you're anywhere within the top 10 at this racetrack, you're going to be okay. This is going to be a draft track. What's going to be... I keep harping on pit stops. I don't mean to keep doing that, but a lot of times we have a pack racing until we get to the pit window, and then that's where the pack has a tendency to break up a little bit. But yeah, Gasper sits on top Sadler. But indeed, you were talking about Antonio Rees. Very quick driver. Let's see what he has in store. Let's see if he has the rust he's got to shake off.
Same thing pretty much with Chris Murakami. I think the only race we saw him race was the first one of the past season, and sitting in 3rd place, no small feat for the Northwest driver.
Yeah, that's one of the names I've recognized, and he's really quick. And of course, God, stick on this story again, but on a draft track, anybody really has a chance to do well on this one. Look at car number 111, Donald Fitter. He's also a driver that did really well in the official series, has a chance to win, as well as David Sanchez as well. A lot of familiar names here. Not the, Stefan, not the usual for these big grid events. We don't usually see the ringers in here. These are all familiar names for the most part.
Yeah, for the most part, they really are. There's no one really that stands out except for maybe Jeff Hornyak, who's sitting in pits right now at 27th and with that dead last. But apart from him, don't really see too many different names. Emil Orsa, also 16th, not a regular in the Weekend Warriors. So we have a few dotted drivers who aren't part of the Weekend Warriors who are racing here today with us. But yeah, apart from that, and James King also not very often racing with the Weekend Warriors right now, sitting in 20th place. Not able to improve on his time as the last one didn't count for him.
Truth be told, I'm going to pull for those outsiders. I always like to see him come in and turn over the apple cart, see what they can do.
Yeah, exactly. You never know what you get with them. They might be really good, or they might be a midfield ringer. You never know what you get until you get them.
The thing with the guys that are familiar with each other, Gaspers and Sandro, and even for that part, Murakami, who they know for the most part, they feel comfortable racing close. And that's we're going to have a lot of close racing here, or at least early on.
As the checkered flies, James Tebow crosses the line for his last one, 35.5. That is no improvement whatsoever, but 2 seconds slower than his fastest lap so far. Daniel Sergio takes to the pit, so he's not going to improve. Let's see, Emil Orsa doesn't improve going over the line. Michael Dobek coming into the last turn. He's going to do it. He's sitting in 12th place, 34.2. And that one did count for him, but not faster than his fastest lap so far.
Nice field of 27 here today.
Adam Bradshaw over the line. Not faster for him. James King, the next one to cross the line, Soup.
King sitting in 20th position. Looking to move up a little bit if he can. You see him at the very bottom of the tower there on the left-hand side.
Does so. Up to 17th. That's an improvement by 7/10 for the Simsa driver. You can see the Bushfink still on his car, but he's actually switched teams to Simsa Sim Racing, I think the name is of that team now.
Boy, it's hard to imagine that Bushfink will let anybody go there. They're almost like a cult. You have to there's a de-initiative procedure you have to go through. Go ahead.
Yeah, with Bob Kern pitting, that is the last car that was able to put in a qualifying lap. We can say that the grid is set for today's big grid race. And as Soup said, no surprise at the top, David Gaspers will be leading your field down into the green flag. Daniel Sadler will line up 2nd place, Chris Murakami 3rd place, James Tebow will conclude the 2nd row of the pace lap. Antonio Rees 5th place, David Garrido Sanchez 6th place, so he will most definitely look to improve on his position in the race. Don Fitter 7th place, Ian Hickox taking home 8th place in the qualifying, Bob Kerr 9th, and Oraniot, your top 10 is Adam Bradshaw.
After that, it's Edward Doherty. He's going to be inside of Michael Dobek. Michael Shaw sits in the Baker's Dozen position, flanked by Jeff Jacobson. Raymond Let's Go Regalado sits in the 14th, 15th spot. All ribbons and curls in the Sweet 16 position. It's Hugh Haycox with James King. We saw him move up a couple spots in 17th. It's going to be inside of Emil Orza. Wayne Palmer in 19th, and rounding out your top 20, Ian Wilson.
Mark Gian, the 225, taking 21st on the grids. Brian Short, 22nd. Edgar Sancinelli, 23rd. Gary Walbolt bringing home 24th in the qualifying. Julie Forsterlin in 25th. Mats Joblom 26th. And bringing up the rear of the 27 car field today will be Jeff Horniak. And yeah, today we will see a full pace lap around the Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. And Soup, one name we don't see out there is Stevie Ray. And sadly, we have some sad news here why he's not with us today. Because on Sunday, we already knew that his father is battling with his life. And sadly, Stevie Ray lost his father on Sunday evening, shortly after the conclusion of the last weekend Warrior race. He was deeply sick. He was running already, sporting his father's and uncle's paint that they used to race in SCCA races. Very nice touch. And obviously, no doubt about it, many thoughts going out to his family in this very, very dark time. racing for George Ray in this one. Thinking about you, Steve, and your family, but we coming up to the end of this pace lap. Only 3 more turns to go, and David Gaspers will be the head of the field here today.
This is going to be the action. This is going to be the action corner right here, coming out of Moss down into this long back straight. You're going to see 2, maybe 3 wide. You'll see guys trying to shoot through the middle. It's going to be exciting in these underpower cars. The draft plays such a big effect.
Well, the entry leaves enough room for 4 cars, but the exit only leaves enough room for 2.
Very well said.
Here we go. They're all lining up 2 by 2, line after line. The Porsche pace car now pulls into pit lane. The flagman likes what he sees, and we'll go here at the Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. And Daniel Sadler, look at that launch, but a missed shift, leaving him stranded on the straight, nearly leading to a 3 wide in behind. Still a lot of 2 by 2 racing in behind Daniel Sadler. Will he be able to keep second place? Yes, he can.
Murakami with a great run, but he had to back out. Now he's going to lose that spot, moving up into 3rd. That's Tiber.
And Bradshaw with a little bit of a mistake, and that's costly. Into the wall he goes. No one else with him. You can see him in the background, in the grass. David Garrido Sanchez attacking Murakami, but is slow out of the turn, so he's going to stick back in 5th place.
Good news is there is that fast repair. The bad news is any chance of a good finish for him is now out of the question.
Oh, Edward Doherty, very aggressive there on the brakes. Nearly run into the back of Reese. Now gets door slammed by, who was that? Don Fitter spinning out. That is his race suspended for now. David Garrido Sanchez now attacking Chris Murakami on the right side.
Donald Fitter won the what they call the S2 or the F2 championship in this series, and actually got promoted up into the top level.
Spec 2 class, the most congested one for that one. Obviously with Gaspers storming away at the head of the field in a Spec 1 class.
And we have 2 classes here today with the numbers of car numbers, anything in the 200s and above, they're in the Spec 2s. Gaspers getting credit with leading that first lap, Steph.
Edward Doherty overtaking Antonio Reese, who got bogged down by a little bit of a mistake by Chris Murakami out of the last turn. And it seems that we have a little bit of a train starting here. The top 4 driving a little bit away from the 5th place Murakami.
Yeah, Sandro, after the missed shift coming off the grid, has managed to get back up into 2nd. Sanchez has picked up a spot.
Oh, who is that in the grass? Daniel Sadro!
Yeah, just when I talked about him, he didn't hit anything. So it looks like he's going to tuck back in at about 7th position. If he can get it going. Here comes a herd of cars going around him. That is Kern picks up the spot.
Back to 9th place, Daniel Sadro from 2nd. That's not what he wanted. As we take you on to replay to show you exactly what happened there with Sadro.
Boy, I'm not really sure. It looks like he just totally mixed the apex, and the car there's no enough time to turn it and keep it on the pavement.
I wonder if it was too early on the apex and hit the curb there. We didn't really see that. Now we will be able to see it.
No, he just missed it. It looks like that's my kind of racing line.
Yeah. Oh, in behind him though, Ian Haycock's completely taking out. Who was it? Was it Doherty? Yeah, no, Dobeck.
Yeah, Dobeck. It was Dobeck.
My word. That was weird enough.
Yeah, the car got loose, and when he overcorrected, came back across, and Dobeck had, well, he was just an innocent bystander.
And that was an overcorrection and a half, sending Dobeck in quite a spin. There we're gonna see, there comes the contact, and look at that. And both Dobeck and Hickox disappear right away off the screen.
Let's take a quick peek up front. Do we have a chance for the Ghost to actually run away with this? He's opened up a 1.5 second lead. He's broken the draft. I don't know.
Oh,
Oh, now
Gaspers.
as I said that, Gaspers makes a mistake.
Now, I think, and don't want to put any blame on anyone, but looking into the info tab right now, we have an incident limit of only 4x, and I think I know why both Ian Haycock and Michael Lobeck disappeared from our screens.
That might have been a mistake there from the launchers on that one.
No, that's intended.
That's the way I like to see you racing.
Gotta be clean, even with the off tracks, otherwise you're
Well-
gone in just a moment.
That kind of takes bump drafting out of the equation, doesn't it?
Well, the good thing is with bump drafting, unless you do it a little bit too violent, you only get
Get away with
0x.
Now you're looking at Sanchez. There is the battle going on behind him. Four-car train breakaway. If they get back up to Gaspers, it's a long way from. Well, I guess Doherty's in the mix. There isn't. Yeah, fifth car. Long way back to Antonio Reese.
Edward Doherty still hanging on to the end of that train, which is, I don't know, I think you could say that's a 5-car train because the difference between Sanchez and Gaspers is still under 2 seconds, which is the cutoff for the draft. So they're still in draft effect range of the first place.
What happened, which is so often the case, when who was sitting in second? Sadro had his issue. It really broke up the train. Now you have Sanchez as kind of a stepping stone. If he can hang on to the back of Gaspers, it's a chance for the rest of those 3 guys to get up there. Remember, the Sanchez qualified in 6th place. It's almost a second slower.
Now, talking about Sadro after his mistake, he's now in 6th place, and actually, he is the fastest car out there in the top 10. So, now, I'm putting Edward Doherty out of that equation. He's in 5th place. He ran about a 100th faster than Daniel Sadro. But taking the train for first in account, except for Edward Doherty, who is at the very back of that train, he is so much faster than anyone else that in the last lap he gained 3/10 alone on Edward Doherty.
Yeah, with apologies to the friends and family of David Sanchez in 2nd place, he has no hope of staying with Gaspers. The only hope for these 4 cars that are losing touch with Gaspers right now is that Sadro just keeps running these laps, gets up there, and somehow can run down the Ghost if he gets up into 2nd.
Yeah, last lap was a full second faster by Gaspers than the train behind him, so that really now put them out of the equation for that draft as we look onto the battle for P9, which Michael Shaw decided for himself just a moment ago as Hugh Haycox entered the last lap, or the lap they're on right now in 9th place, and is now in 10th.
Nevertheless, even though Haycox lost that spot, he's up 6 spots from where he started, racing now in 10th, up from 16th. He's being tailed by Raymond Regalado back there in 11th. Nice little 3-car battle.
Biggest mover right now in the top 10 is actually Edward Doherty, starting 11th right now in 5th place. Obviously nothing in regards to what we saw at Suzuka from David Gaspers after not being able to put in a single lap because all 3 of his qualifying laps were with an off-track. He started racing that last 24th and went on to win it.
Love that camera angle there. That's a nice one. You know, with Gaspers running away with this, you start looking at race stories you might want to talk about. Can we take a look back at car number 111? That's Donald Fitterer back in what would be 18th position right now. We saw him have that trouble early on. He's staying out there. Donald trying to move up. Be interested to see how far he can get. Maybe get a top 10 would be a good finish for him.
Well, he was, I think, dead last after his spin, if I get it correct, which was at the time of point 25th. So he's doing a great job.
Just ahead of him, we go to 13th, a nice little battle with Orza and Jacobson, a 4-car battle, Palmer involved in it, Wilson.
Yeah, and just ahead of him, James King just tried to overtake Ramon Regalado for 11th place. But I think this mid-pack right now, 3 packs of 4, is where the battle, where the fighting really is happening right now.
Indeed. You can see the tower that the gap continues to grow from Gaspers to Sanchez. The fun to one is that interval between 5th and 6th. Doherty and Sadro. What can Sadro do to get up there?
Oh,
Stefan?
you Haycox! Oh, you Haycox avoiding spinning into the oncoming traffic again. That was close.
This was a tank slapper. This spin took forever to happen. And then when you stay with this director, because the exciting part is when he actually gets it straightened out, he brings it out onto the track right in front of the guys racing for 13th. Look at this as he fights it. Does a 360 in the grass. Fortunately, the car comes around straight. So I'm going straight. I'll pull out here. He does a nice job of not pulling out into traffic. Actually, pretty nice job.
Oh, boy. You Haycox though out of turn 1. Very unfortunate. He got onto the curb, surfed up on it, spun out right into the way of Mark Gehan, collected Mark Gehan, T-boned by him, and both the races are done as they hit the incident limit.
Boy, how many times has that happened? Any sim racer can relate to that. You have a save, you lose your momentum, and then that happens. Hey, let's quickly look at the top 4 again, because something has happened. Murakami and Doherty kind of got together in Moss, and they lost a lot of momentum. So now those 4-car train that was behind Gaspers is now a pair of 2s.
Pair of 2s, and the interesting part will be how fast is Murakami really now, because he has to get up or recover a gap of about a second up to Garrido Sanchez and James Tibor, who themselves have closed up the gap to David Gaspers, actually, which is now only 2.5 seconds.
Yeah, in theory, the guys in 2nd and 3rd should be able to swap, do a little leapfrogging, maybe a couple, 2 or 3 times a lap, pick up 2 or 3 car lanes. Each time they leapfrog, they should be able to run down Gaspers. And sure enough, that interval, which was, I saw it all the way up to 4, is now down to 2.5. So,
oh, Jeff Jacobson just spun out of turn 1, hit the wall hard. That's also one Spec Racer 4 quite heavily dented.
Wayne Palmer had a good view of this one. Happened right in front of him. He had plenty of time to react, but taking a look at this one.
Yeah, so that was one of those times where which way do you want to go?
You can see the car going back and forth on the track. Luckily, he clears it.
And the car was so damaged of Jeff Jacobson that he decided to stop the car just after turn 2, and he is waiting for the car to be towed back as David Garrido Sanchez tries to do it into the inside of turn 8 to take back 2nd place, and he does so effectively.
Stefan, you and I have done enough weekend wars to say this is a bit of an anomaly here. These guys are making more mistakes than we usually see. Perhaps maybe the pressure of not racing for points, just doing it for fun, racing
Edward
for pride.
Doherty!
And there you go.
Doherty off track, and he is a gunner.
That's another example.
That leaves only 3 cars left in the battle for 2nd place as the Garrido Sanchez really wide through turn 2, putting down quite the tire mark on the outside, trying to keep his car away from the graph.
Can we get a replay of that? Our director saw it too. Gaspers, I'm not sure if he actually lost it or if he just showing his racing skills. Look at this car get loose. I would have been in the refrigerator by now, pouring myself a glass of milk when I had to deal with this. Watch this car control here. Unless he's just showing off. Woo. No,
Well, oh, Brian short on the inside there, nothing to worry about. What that meant is that Garrido Sanchez is now 1.3 seconds behind David Gaspers, so that gap ever so closing between first and second.
I love the tower. You can look over there. We don't have to work as hard as commentators to keep you informed what's going on. You can see that interval continuing to slow down. Gaspers, though, can get his wits about him and see if he can start putting down some hot laps. Uh-oh. And that's going to open up the gap a little bit as Sanchez goes off and into the ether.
That was his fourth off-track of the day, and he is also a gunner, which leaves now us with only, I think, 16 cars remaining on track.
I love this. I love this small incident cap. This it's kind of like Russian roulette iRacing.
Yeah, one thing we have to mention, that's most definitely a mistake by Steve Ray on setting up this session.
Yeah, but so was penicillin, and look how successful that is. So, this may start something.
I don't think that comparison is valid here.
All right, so with the driver in second now out of the mix, or actually Doherty was not in second, but there's a little farther back. But Sadro continues to close up. He's working. Only 1.7 seconds behind Murakami, and once he gets there, he can get to Gaspers.
Was that just Ian Wilson into the wall? No. What? Who was that?
King had a bad off in Moss.
James King that was through Moss, through the middle, a little bit too fast on the entry. You're gonna see it just now. There we go. And goes to the dirt.
In a normal race, that would just be kind of nothing, but that's halfway now to his incident cap.
Either halfway or 1/4.
1/4, yeah.
3/4. Depending on how many he already has. Who's that hitting in? That is Popcorn from 6th, hitting in.
Director don't want to jump you around too much, but how about 6th real quick? A nice little battle going on between Regalado and Emil Ortiz. This one's really close. Let's watch Ortiz behind him. See if he can get a run here. Going down into 1. He's laying back a bit.
One thing you can see on the tower is that
in the grass. He's really struggling.
Yeah, it's not what we're used to by David Gaspers. But with that, the gap has now come under 1 second between Gaspers and Tibor. Now, Tibor, the first guy to chase after Gaspers, closing the gap down, who has a chance to not get disqualified.
That's right. Sadro and Reese shaking back in 4th and 5th. They continue to run down.
Through the last turn, they go for the 11th time of this race, leaving only 22.5 minutes left in this race of this 40-minute race.
Well, Gaspers has put himself in the position now where pit stops matter. He had such a large lead that he could afford to come in and make a casual stop. Now he's got to make sure he gets a good one. The randomness of these lower tiered cars when it comes to putting fuel in is a bit iffy. So you never want to be too careful. You never be too confident in your lead when there's a pit stop between you and the checkered flag.
Bob Kern, right now your leader of the already pitted cars. He is sitting in 12th place, about 36 seconds behind Dave Gaspers.
Only 16 cars on the lead lap.
Now, it's starting to get really interesting at the front because also Antonio Rees and Daniel Sadler are starting to catch David Gaspers as the number 288 of Ramon Regalado, very wide through the Mossas.
That was that battle with Emil Ortiz.
Oh.
It's Regalado in the front car. They go behind the foliage here in Canada.
Yeah, and you're gonna see a very awkward situation just now. Or not, because that's trees.
Yeah, there's a lot of trees in Canada.
Let's have a look there from Ramon Regalado. We're actually gonna be able to see that he's gonna get a nudge just about now from Emil Orsa, sending him in quite to some troubles, trying to save it, and spins out.
But he's still on the track, so that's the good news.
So that means he either has 2 or 3 wins.
And that's still 20 minutes of racing to go. Boy, that's under the pressure.
Ramon Regalado, we can see him in his pit stall as Bob Kern goes past, putting him now up to 11th place.
Gaspers is loose again. Oh my goodness! This is through Moss. This is just ridiculous.
I see nothing wrong with that.
I gotta think that David's putting on a show for us here. Unless he's just not feeling well.
You know what? It might have been a mistake, but he perfectly drifted that one through the moss, as initiated it perfectly on the first curb, hit the outside curb perfectly, no millimeter to spare, and it even nearly nailed the second apex. So that is most definitely 9.5 out of 10 style points.
Yeah, and he ups the interval a bit. Reese has made it his way up to 3rd now, as he's got around James Tiber. Sadler's still back there in 5th.
Tibor, while we saw Gaspers trying out the drift capabilities of the car, he made a mistake through the moss hairpin.
Oh, as we talk about Reese, he goes off.
Hitting the outside grass hard into the wall twice. Oh. Wow, you're gonna see quite the impact there.
I think he got the right sides off on the grass there. I think that's what would have done it for me. Then the car, when he gets under braking, then the left side hooks up, the right side doesn't, and it comes around, and that's it for him.
Yeah, that is one heck of a frontal impact for Antonio Reese. He can only be glad that he's not sitting in a rig that is actually able to move.
Yeah.
Let's just put it like that.
Not a full motion rig. Tibor now is passed by Sadro. So Sadro, honestly, a lot of it has been through attrition. He just keeps picking up spots. He's now in 3rd. He's only got Murakami between him, and all of a sudden you got the front 3 sitting 1, 2, 3, not in that order, but they're all back up there again.
18 minutes on left as both Gaspers and Murakami pit in to take their pit stops. Daniel Sadler, though, and also James Tibor stay out for at least another lap.
New leader.
Now, interesting thing will be, where is Bob Kern? He's right now heading down the... I think this is also the Andretti straightaway, I think. Yes. Into turn 8. Gaspers now off the pit limiter, so yeah, no contestation there at all, as he comes out right behind James King in 7th, actually 6th place.
Yeah, now the issue that Gaspers will have is he's got about 20 car lengths to King. If King slows him up a little bit, that'll be good for Sadler, who's out there hot lapping right now. Sadler's got nobody in front of him. Don't know if King is going to put much of a battle up here with Gaspers when he gets there, but we'll see.
However, the thing right now is this benefits Gaspers as long as he gets closer to King and might even overtake him in a spot where he's not going to lose time. This is incredibly good news for Gaspers. Look at how much he decloses in there through the moss hairpin, and now he has dropped quite heavily in his favor.
This is a case where traffic is actually going to be helpful. They're just going to be able to get up behind King, slide right up behind him, then dip out here to the right, right around him. Not going to cost him any time. He'll probably clear before he gets to the S's. We'll not have to worry about a bad entrance into the corner. And sure enough, that's definitely going to be good news for him. Bad news for Sadler. Sadler going around one more time.
Yeah, Sadler going to the bitter end of his fuel tank. Next car ahead of Gasper's Donald Fitterer, 1.9 seconds ahead of him. So even there, he still is in the draft range as actually Fitterer pits in.
Just to show you how fast Gaspers is, as Fitterer makes that pit, Gaspers is already by him.
Now, I think Fitterer was close to Bob Kern. No, he wasn't, as he goes past. Let's see, Shaw goes past. Next one to have pitted already is Ramon Regalado, now getting his way out of the last turn, as Fitterer is already off the pit limiter and out of turn 1.
Remember, Fitterer's a car we peeked in on earlier. He had that early incident. He qualified in 7th. He went all the way back to last. Last time we picked him up, he was in 19th. And one of the commentators said, I think he can probably get a top 10. Well, he's in 11th. Come on,
Ian
Donald.
Wilson just hit the wall out of turn 3. So that is at least 1x to his name. He's now in 8th place, right behind Chris Murakami.
So you can see the interval there from Sadro back to Gaspers, 20 seconds. Sadro going around one more time. Here comes Tiber. Now this will be a good indication of how Sadro will
Really
fare.
slow on the entrance there, James Tiber was. Like, incredibly slow there.
Gaspers through the S's now, heading out onto the main straight. He should easily swing by Tiber.
James Tiber for sure lost at least a second there on the pit entrance. Chris Murakami will most definitely clear him, I would say, having much more head of steam through the outside of turn 1. And sure enough, he passes him.
But Tiber will pull out, probably be able to stay in the draft. These guys were close to each other before the pit stop, so...
Oh, Gaspers with a slide, not saving it through turn 3 into the grass, and that's him gone.
Yeah, there you go. All those little trips through the grass, one too many.
It's gonna happen through turn 3, just a little bit too fast, tries to fight the car, tries to fight the off-track, but will not succeed. There he goes now into turn 3, a little bit too fast, as said, already way out there, and that's enough for you to go out.
That's great. Sadro going around one more time. Daniel, Gaspers, he's probably he's looking at his timing and scoring right now saying, where is the ghost? This changes stuff up considerably now.
Now, the one thing we can count on is that David Gaspers will not win 12 out of the 13 races this season. Daniel Sadler obviously winning at Zandvoort.
Yeah.
That was with the mistake of David Gaspers. Both of them touching their cars, as Julia Forcelin has had some troubles out of turn 3, as we see the 23 of James King in the pits right now, taking his scheduled pit stop, probably dropping him close to the end of the top 10.
So I think our leaders could be this battle for third, Murakami and Tiber. Now, of course, Sadro was right with these guys, so that pit stop's going to be important. These lap times that Sadro's putting in right now could be the difference. You know, with Gaspers having trouble, I don't think they should put this 4 incident cap to a vote with the members, because they made this vote for it. That's one way to beat Gaspers, huh?
Now,
No.
One thing I was gonna say is that in this race, if Daniel Sadler doesn't win, and obviously Gaspers can't win anymore, we might see the third winner, different winner of this season.
Sadro's got to be very careful.
Now, obviously, this isn't part of the regular season. They don't score points from the regular season, but like
It's
we
hard
have in
not to-
iRacing,
Yeah.
yeah, it's the 13th week of the third season, so I count it.
Well, you could look at it that way. I think a lot of these guys might be looking at it as a way to get momentum going into the upcoming season coming up. And Murakami and Tibur continue to race nose to tail. The interval between them, you can see now 30 seconds. That seems doable to me, Stefan. I can see Sadro get in and out with that 30-second bogey time there.
Chris Murakami, he will get for sure. It will be close with Orsa. It's right now 18.8 seconds, but it is increasing. If I remember correctly, the pit lane delta is 22 seconds here for the SRF. Don't quote me on that though. Oh, Wade Palmer spinning out of turn 2, able to continue and does not suffer.
The blinking away. Yeah, that's right. You have two things to worry about now when you spin.
Sadro.
Don't hit the wall and don't blink away. Here we go.
Now we're gonna see what happens. Orsa, I just realized, also has to pit, so that puts him out of the equation. It's all about Chris Murakami versus Daniel Sadro.
They've got to deal with Jeff Jacobson right now. Jacobson does a good job of getting out of the way.
Wow, Orsa also extremely slow into the pit lane. Doesn't realize the cones are well after the start of the pit wall. Daniel Sadro.
Sadro is back out, comfortably ahead of Murakami and Tibur.
And with that, we now also know the pit lane delta. It's 25 seconds.
Yeah, you were real close. Director, let's go to fourth real quick. Bob Kern in a battle with Michael Shaw, a couple veterans of the Weekend Warriors. These guys are having fun racing, but they all have to race with the sword of Damocles over their head. If you know your sword of Damocles thing, there's a lot of pressure. Having off, you end up going into the ether.
One thing I forgot about is that Kane Halliburton actually won the first race, so we might have the fourth winner of this season 3. Thank you to David Gaspers for pointing that out to me.
Look at that. You can only see there's actually two cars that are on screen. One is tucked in behind. Right, and that is Michael Shaw, basically sitting in the lap of Bob Kern. And now he gives a little room.
Now, one thing we have to mention is, you can see that there are only 13 cars remaining on the lead lap. One car is one lap down and the rest is already DQ'd, and you might be wondering, what the heck, are these guys that bad or what is going on here? No, simply this is a fun event and someone in the hosting section messed up a little bit and set the incident limit to only 4x.
Conspiracy, the guy. I would look into that. Might be something going on there.
Alright, let's set the scene here after the pit stops are done. Your top 5 right now are Daniel Sadro leading by about 5.8 seconds ahead of James Tibur. Chris Murakami tucked right under the rear spoiler of the speculative Ford of James Tibur in 3rd place. And then we already have about 8 seconds down to Bob Kern and Michael Shaw fighting for 4th and 5th place.
Don't stop there though, baby! Because right as we look at that battle of those guys, again, that looks like a replay, deja vu, what we just saw the last lap. Let's stay on this a minute, and then I'll tell you where I'm going to go after this. I don't think that Shaw is going to do anything. I think this is his modus operandi for now. Let's drop back one more spot. There he is, car number 111. We've documented his climb through the field. Donald Fitter started in 7th, spun on the very first lap, went all the way back to the back, worked his way back up to 6th. Nice stuff. Nicely done.
Yeah, And he is actually disregarding... No, he's actually not. Because the biggest mover from the starting position to his racing position right now, as we see Wayne Palmer overtake Ian Wilson, is the exactly mentioned Ian Wilson. Started in 20th, right now in 9th place.
Palmer making up through his trip through the Canadian countryside there, picks up that spot. Yeah, indeed, Wilson doing nice, up 11 spots, well 10 spots I guess, 20th to 10th.
Yeah, and because he is now only 10 spots up, that equals him as the high charge with James King, started in 17th, right now 7th. Emil Orso started in 18th, right now 8th. And Wayne Palmer started in 19th, right now 9th.
Steph, all this going on behind Daniel Sadro. I appreciated all your thoughts about winning, but Sadro clearly picked up a win this season, did he not?
Yes, he did in Zandvoort.
Weren't a lot of wins to go around with the Ghost out there, as Gasper's got the majority of them. Tiber up in second now with Murakami behind him.
The one race we thought that he made up in just 40, not even 40, I think it was only like the first 15 minutes or so, and he was already leading the race.
Cars on the lead lap. It looks like Giulio Corcolan will be able to hang in there. He's a minute 27 behind Sadro.
Yeah, we only have
be able to stay there.
4 minutes left as Chris Murakami perfectly overtakes James Tebow round the outside of the first apex of the Moss hairpin. James Tebow now the chaser, as Chris Murakami is the chasee.
Look at the defensive line there from Tiber. Murakami's going to have to go to the outside. Let me get that right. That's Tiber going to the outside the defensive line, of course, from that familiar painted car there of Murakami. And there's the path back.
Yeah, so only one turn. The lead did hold of Chris Murakami, now back to 3rd place. As we enter only 3.5 minutes to go, which means that we have 3 laps to go.
We'll be able to follow the leader across the line, and then a fun little battle to keep an eye on is the battle for second between Tiber and Murakami, but also this one going on between Kerr and Shaw. They're having a lot of fun.
Right now, those two are also our closest battle. We also have a battle between Palmer and Wilson, but Wilson made a mistake through the Moss hairpin just a few seconds ago, so that did split up. Bob Kern looking not very strong through the 3rd turn, like Michael Shaw did, really catching back up to Kern. Doesn't try anything into turn 4 though.
We look at that battle as they work their way through Moss.
Now, one thing I am a little bit surprised is that James Tebow and Chris Murakami are not able to catch Daniel Sadro whatsoever. They are fighting, I think, not too hard with each other, but they're not pushing each other hard enough, in the form of Chris Murakami pushing James Tebow, to really make up any ground to Daniel Sadro, still sitting about 6.5 seconds behind the 1st place driver.
You know, Stefan, you talked earlier about bump drafting and how if you do it right, you don't pick up an incident. That's clearly the case as Michael Shaw has been bump drafting Kern for the last 15 minutes. Director, I would be remiss if we didn't get the camera on car number 257 real quick. He's a fan favorite here on GSRC. Edgar Sanchinelli, we know him from the Absolute Beginner League, having a nice run up. What would that be? 11 spots into 12th. We see Edgar. Well done, baby. All by himself.
Yeah, but 1 minute 13 behind your leader of Daniel Sedgwick, who's making his way now through the Moss hairpin for the penultimate time of this race.
Okay, so I'm sitting in the co-com chair, so I get to do the where do you want to be on the track this time? I want to be, if I'm like Tibur and Murakami, or the battle going on between Kerr and Shaw, I want to be in second spot, coming out of Moss. Let me do the slingshot and then play defense to the end. Steffens, you agree with me? As that's being said, we have a pass right now.
You want to be second, but you don't want to be second going through here. You want to be on the inside. If you're not getting the inside, it's going to be very hard, like James Tebow just had to prove through turn 9. Has to stick back again. Obviously, you can force something through turn 9, and you might be seeing something in the last lap that these guys are entering now. But that last turn, turn 10, is once again a right-hander, really compromising your chances of making something happen there. But once again, we might be able to see someone do it, because you really can get a good drive out of turn 10, and then in the Spec Racer Ford it is possible to power out of that so well that you get past over the start-finish line.
That's interesting, because Murakami had the option of being behind Tibur, and unless Tibur just slowed down so much that Murakami had no choice. But now I kind of like where James is in this battle for second.
James Tebow, let's have a look what he can do as Daniel Sergio now about halfway through the Mario Andretti straight, so we still have a little bit to go. But that was a really bad exit by James Tebow, and I think that might have sealed the deal on that.
Yeah, that's not the exit he needed on the white flag lap, is it? Sadro getting down towards the SS. I think we have time to see if Tebow can come up and make this pass. He's got the run, the defensive line. Going to force him to the outside.
Oh, he's getting even past. What a power move by James Tebow, but we sadly have to switch to Daniel Sedgwick. He makes his way out of the last turn and over the line. Give it up for your winner of the vRunoffs special event here at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park, ahead of James Tebow and Chris Murakami.
Let's look at Kern and Shaw. Shaw followed Kern for the last 20 minutes.
And has to follow him.
Shaw. Yep.
Over the start-finish line. But it was quite heavily contested out of the Moss hairpin. Donald Fisher takes home 6th place. James King 7th. Emil Orsa 8th. And Owain Palmer will be regarded at 9th place.
We're going to take a look at the replay here for a second. Now that's Murakami now. Here's the pass. Watch the defensive line that Murakami takes in that kind of candy-painted car. Tebow goes to the outside, and this is what Stefan talked about. He made it stick, then he was able to get down and close the door. And then from then on, Murakami, there was no way to get back.
Now, with that, the racing might be over here in Bowmanville, but the show is far from done. We're going to step aside for just a few moments to take a breather, but we will be quickly back for the post-race show, where we will run you down the unofficial finishing order, talk to some of the drivers, and close off a full race. So don't step away too far, as Cheezers, he will be back after these messages. we welcome you all back to the Weekend Warriors post-race show streaming into your home on the iRacing eSports Network. And the first thing on our to-do list is present to you with the unofficial finishing order, which Daniel Sadro is sitting on top, 8.2 seconds at the very end ahead of James Tibor, fighting off Chris Murakami in the very last corner to take home that place over Chris Murakami. Third place to him, Bob Kern fighting off Michael Shaw in the fight for 4th and 5th place. Donald Fitcher 6th place after a very disappointing first lap. He fought his way back, stayed clear of the off tracks and finishes in 6th place. Very respectable race for him. James King taking home 7th place from 17th, one of our 4 hard chargers in this event, alongside Emil Orsa in 8th, Wayne Palmer 9th, and Ian Wilson in 10th place.
Fan favorite Edgar Sansanelli, last car in the lead lap, comes home in 11th. Giulio Fercolan in the 12th position. In the Baker's Dozen spot, it is Gary Wolbel. Jeff Jacobson after them. Raymond Regalado in 15th, and all these drivers now from here on out were all DQ'd because of incidents or hit the wall. The Ghost, David Gasper in the Sweet 16 position, Brian Short, Antonio Reese after that, and David Sanchez, 19th. Rounding out your top 20, it was Edward Doherty who was racing up front for a while.
Another car to have had enough misfortune to get DQ'd is Hugh Haycox in 21st, Mark Gehan 22nd, Mats Sjöblom 23rd, Jeff Horniak 24th, Ian Haycox 25th, so both Haycoxes didn't finish today's big grid race. 26th to Michael Dobak and Adam Bradshaw, who both were victim of the very first crash of this race. And talking to us now will be Daniel Sadro, your winner of today's race. And Sadro, it has to feel a little bit special today, especially with being able to survive a 4x incident limit.
Yeah, that was a surprise to all of us. Steve always wants us to drive these races so clean, and he certainly got us to do that this week. When I think we thought, or on the pace lap, somebody noted that they thought it was 4x, but we thought it was just some sort of iRacing. We started driving quite a bit more carefully.
Yeah, Adam Bradshaw and Michael Dobak, your first victims of that one. But nonetheless, it looked like you were starting to close the gap up to the top 4, and then also they were starting to close up the gap to Gaspers, and really looked like we're going to be able to see a nice showdown between all of you for that first position. Obviously, then Gaspers getting DQ'd and others also getting DQ'd, you were suddenly left with quite a commanding lead, I would say.
Yeah, because I know Antonio got DQ'd, and I was where I was took it at the last possible second, really helped and just gave me a buffer, and then they started racing, and it was just off into the sunset.
Yeah, off into the sunset in the Canadian Outback. Now, obviously, this race is a little bit weird with that 4x incident limit, but
reasonably quickly and reasonably safely. Definitely. It's definitely going to make me feel a little more comfortable, but although next week will be a little tighter confines than Motorsport with Tsukuba.
Daniel, it's Soup here. Is the SRF, is that your car? I mean, is that your car of choice on iRacing?
It's my primary car, yeah. I run a few others, Lotus 49 and the Audi Quattro and the Camel series. But yes, I think the SRF is what you'd call my primary series.
That's right. We have seen you in the Lotus 49.
Oh yeah. It's definitely about car control, and I think driving the multiple cars has really helped me in the others. Learning the Lotus 49 and has brought some things into how I drive the SRF and just being able to. I think I'm able to save some mistakes that I wasn't able to beforehand.
Always love the battles with you in that Lotus 49. Even though they're not at the front, they're always quite enjoyable, I would say.
Oh, absolutely. Well, thanks. And, obviously, just if I can just have a second, I'd like to, we are thinking of you, Steve. Thanks, Steve Uray. We know about with your family, and hope you're watching this with a smile at how clean of a race we did. So, good luck, guys.
At least 13 of the guys out there had a very clean race. But yeah, obviously, everyone thinking about Stevie Ray and his family because of his father passing away just 1 week ago. Sadly, with that, we also have to close the show because nobody else is willing to talk to us. A lot of people a little bit frustrated probably about that 4x incident limit, but before we head off, we first of all would like to thank once again the iRacing Esports Network for having us here with the Weekend Warriors series and many other series. Obviously, if you haven't done so, make sure to like and subscribe. If you haven't done so yet on the YouTube page, you're gonna find out because there is a very big red button there. Right now on your screen, you can also see all of the companies that provide us with their great hard and software GSRC uses to deliver you the best possible show. Additional thanks to Tune Lalonde, who provides us with a great masterpiece to see the screen for how to get a hold of more of her great work. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, please visit us at globalsimracingchannel.com. You can also find us on the social media platforms, Twitter with @GSRChannel, Facebook at facebook.com/globalsimracingchannel, or on Instagram at GSRC_trap. All of the upcoming races for our order series are right now sliding across your screen, so check them out and mark them down on your calendar to not miss another second of exciting racing action. Finally, on behalf of the entire crew, Sean, who stepped in for a brief moment for Bill, Joe, and Dougie, I'd like to thank you all for tuning in as Daniel Sadru took away the victory at the very interesting race at the Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. With that said, until next time, servus and sayonara, and as always, race hard, race clean, and we'll see you on the track.